Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to be giving some top tips as to how to finish your read after having tip profiled. So, are you ready for this? It's morphin' time! Brontosaurus! And if you haven't already, please do hit the subscribe button and to make sure that notifications are on. One of the only real delights that I get from making these videos is to see the subscriber count going up. So that would be very much appreciated. Thank you. I should also say in this video that this is a rather more long form video. I'm experimenting a little bit, and I know that some people prefer to have something which is maybe on while they're working on reads themselves that isn't so punchy, you know, which some of my videos are. Hi everybody and welcome to the desk. So obviously it's a bit cramped here, but I want to make sure that you can see what I'm doing very clearly. What I have for you is, as you can see, I've got a bunch of reads on my table here, and what I'm doing is preparing an order for the UK to go to a store. And what I want to show you are what I need to do after having tip profiled. So these reads were made, the tips were cut off and the tips were profiled yesterday. And this is day 2 now. And what I'm going to be doing is making some final adjustments. But the main thing that there are 2 or 3 things which I want to get across in this video. And the first thing is that every read coming off the tip profiler, no matter how sharp the blade is, but especially if the blade is not brand new, you do need to do some filing work to make sure that the profile is perfectly smooth. And that can be, obviously, can be made clear in a couple of these reads. So what I have, I'm just going to show you. So for example, on this read, it's reflecting the light, but you can see where the profile, the tip profiler basically works anywhere above where I'm indicating with the file here. And you can see that it is not perfectly smooth. Same thing on the other side. And although this read responds quite well, I'm going to show you also the tip. And as I close the tip, it's looking pretty good, depending on your taste. The tip may not be closing exactly the way that you want it to, but the most important thing here is that we smooth out the area. We smooth out the area where the tip profiler went across. I am not going to touch the thinnest area. This is the Hertzberg model read where there's a sort of a wall, a sound ledge, which is made here where I'm indicating. And I'm not going to touch that area, but the profile did attack this area behind it as well. So in any case, this is for people who already work with their own tip profile cane. And I have a knife style jewelry file here, which is of the finest grade. And all I am doing is smoothing out the area where the knife of the tip profiler made contact with the reed so that it is perfectly smooth. It's already better. I can tell this by the peaking on my camera. I don't know if you know what peaking is, but it tells you where contrast points are. And you can see that material sort of in the reflections of the light that it's coming off. And I'm applying no pressure with my hand. I'm simply running the file across the surface of the blade. And now it is much smoother. You should be able to tell from your screen how smooth it is. It's maybe not as smooth right here than it is over there, possibly. I'm actually using the camera to tell me. And although this doesn't change the tip opening in any meaningful way, it will mean that the reed crows it will respond a bit faster. Yeah, so what you missed is that before I made this video, I had to crowed the reed, and just by smoothing out this area, what that meant is that now I have all three levels of the crow, the low, the mid, and the high, immediately with the amount of air support that I want to give the reed if I was going to perform. I now have all three. So simply smoothing out what the profiler had done in the first place, simply smoothing that out, you're finishing off what theoretically should, what we're trying to develop by introducing the kind of taper or the template which is in the finishing of the tip profiler. Now, so that's reed number one. That's the simple, like every reed needs to be done like this. What is a recommendation is that you're going to notice that the roughness of the profile after coming off the tip profiler, that the more rough it is, it's either an indication that the cane is quite soft, and maybe you'll notice the reed is rather low in pitch. Or if this is happening across all of your reeds, then it has to do with the fact that the blade is not sharp anymore, is dull. So you're going to have to think about buying a new blade or sharpening the old one. And if you, obviously that is something which can be a source of frustration for some players who I know certainly find that reed making can be very expensive. But if you're not working with sharp tools, then you're not going to get the best results, and you're going to be doing a lot of work sort of making up for dull tools. Okay, so I covered the basics right there. That's something that we need to do every time. But this goes for any tip template, tip profiler. It doesn't have to do with like the Hertzberg style or whatever, which I've been doing on this video. The next one I want to show you is where we have a case of maybe the reed was formed slightly differently, like the tube is a little bit more round potentially, or the reed is a bit softer, it could be. But in any case, what's happening is that on this reed in particular, when I look at the tip, what I see is that it is quite open at the center, and it is a little bit more closed on the sides. And this is, you can see that the sides collapse immediately. And some people would look at this and go, this is exactly what I want, which is fine. But what I would like to point out here is that in this case, what I see is that the way that the cane reacted to the tip template is that it reacted a bit further in the windows, the area of the eyes or the windows or whatever you want to call that area, but basically here, that there's it slightly, I don't want to say it collapsed, but there is a clear indentation. From my perspective, I'm not sure if it shows up so easily on camera in this particular case, but what we can see is that there's actually, in this area, we've lost a bit of strength. There's a bit of a step or a bend in the cane here. And what I would like to do is I would counteract that a little bit. First of all, I will do the same thing that I did to the last reed. Oh, and I'll crow it just for a second. There's a tiny bit of resistance before it begins to crow. I get everything, but it goes da like this. And what I would like is I would like to be able to put the minimum and for it to immediately start to crow, rather than that there's like a gate and that you pass a certain gate and then everything comes. So what do we have? I wonder if it's a bit more clear there. In any case, what I'm going to do is exactly what I showed you on the first read. And then I'm going to put just a bit more emphasis right here and right here. Basically, I'm going to take away a little bit of cane just before the bend. So that the reed sort of blends. And what we'll see is that the tip opening, if I've done this successfully, the tip opening will be a little bit more, I hesitate to use the word flat, but when I close the reed, the side edges won't collapse immediately. So now I've done my smoothing out, and it should be actually quite obvious there. Oops. Quite obvious that you can see the weakness. It's not really a weakness. I really hesitate to use that term. But I just want to make sure that the sort of the outer area is fully blended. So this is a sort of, this is the reed itself, the sort of the larger structure of the reed reacting to the tip profile. It's not so bad on this side, but I still haven't done. So I haven't taken very much cane off at all. Okay, so I'm just going to show you here. So here's the tip now. And it's just a bit better in terms of how it collapses towards the center. Collapses, terrible word. But it closes a bit more evenly from side to center. But how does it crow? So you can hear that immediately when I start putting air through it, I get everything. That's great. Tiny, tiny adjustments here, but they make all the difference. Finally, in the third example that I have, what I have is a reed which is obviously a bit, the cane is a bit, I hesitate to use the word harder, but the indication to me that this is a bit more resilient, the fibers are more resilient, is that the area which was tip profiled here is already looking quite smooth as it comes off of the tip profiler. So I will still smooth out this reed, but what I also notice in the crow is that the high notes, the higher level comes out first before I get the mid and the low. So you hear the high, and then a bit of the mid, and then the low comes in, and you get everything. And this is as the high comes out, and that's when I give a little bit more air so that we hear everything. And what I would like is that with the air that I'm giving, or the air support that I'm putting through the reed during the crow, I would like when I'm getting the high notes only, I should get everything. And so what that tells me is that the reed is a little bit, that there could be a bigger difference between this side to center, the taper from center to the side. And that means I could take more cane away from the sides as I'm doing this. And you can see as I close it, it closes a little bit flat. we could have a better taper from side to center. I see that it still could be smoothed out slightly, but I want to spend a little bit more time as I'm finishing this on those side edges. I'm not going for the rails, as many people know that area to be called. I'm going for I think they call it the channel. So just basically this middle area between the spine and the very edge. This is where I'm going to attack with the file so that the side edges collapse a little bit more. And I'm going to pay just a bit more attention as let's say that the channels, the surface area of the channels expand as we head towards the tip. So just as the reed increases in size, so do the channels, right? So that means we have more material to take away and more area to take away towards the tip than we do in the back half of the reed. And you can see material beginning to build up. And you can tell that my channels, this area that I'm attacking, I'm basically I am not touching the area that was already hit by the knife of the tip profiler. I'm only going from behind that area because that part is basically finished. It is set to the final dimension of the reed. And it's this area behind, which was built into the profile, but not into the tip profile, which I need to work on. Now you can see again that material is appearing at the very tip. There's quite a lot that's coming off here that I'm trying to take off, but I'm not digging at the moment. And you can see, I'm pretty sure you can tell on the camera. I mean, I can certainly see it with my two eyes that the center, so that there is a sort of spine appearing because I've taken away material on either side. So it's always hard to tell. The difficulty of making tutorial videos is that the lens is as if you're looking through one eye. So you can see that there is a difference starting now. And we are yes, it is less flat when we close the tip. Let's see how it crows. Yeah, so it's not, it still could go further. I would at this point probably try it on my bassoon before I do anything more. But what the hell? I would say that every stage in your own reed making or reed finishing, it's worth really trying this on your instrument to see if you're getting the results that you want. I'm generally making reeds when I'm selling to a store. I'm making reeds for people who are not professional players, and that means that I want quite a responsive reed, and I know this how to get that. When I'm making reeds for myself, it's a little bit different. It still could be better. I could work harder on this reed, and I could also now because I don't see I'm getting the response. Well, you know what? When I look at it, when I'm not holding it to a camera, but I'm holding it to my own eyes, it looks quite all right. Yeah, it is much better than what it was, and I would test it now before I do anything more to it. So what you got were three examples. You got an example of a reed which is very standard, and what I would do to tip after tip profiling the reed. I would do it on the second day, however, not on the first day. Mainly to do with the reed is going to change overnight after you cut the tip off because it's been soaked for the first time and then it'll dry out. And when it's soaked for the second time, it will respond differently. Tip profiling is making a huge change to the structure, the vibrating structure of the reed, I guess you could say. And so you've got to be very careful as to how much work you do. I mean, we all know if you don't have a tip profile, you know, the quicker you finish a reed, the less long it will live. And so if you make a reed and play a concert on it the same night that you cut the tip off, that is just not going to last as long as a reed which you finish over the course of a week or 2 weeks. And it just, this is the phenomenon that we're talking about. So if you tip profile on the first day, don't do anything more to it until day 2, day 3, day 4. Finally, there are two things that I just want to cover very, very briefly. And that is this phenomenon, I think. So this is a reed which came off the tip profiler. You can see right at the tip, yes, right at the tip, it's a bit rough. Sort of like it gives a little toothy smile on the tip. This is absolutely not a problem. It's not. It's an aesthetic issue. If the reed is responding, which it will, it does. I know it does. Then there's no issue. If the reed works, don't be upset that this is a bit rough at the tip. There are two possible reasons. One is that the blade depth is a bit too much. The blade is cutting too much cane away all in one go. And so when you're on your tip profiler, and so what's happening is that it digs down too far in the cane to the point where there's a lot of pressure on the cane to finish the cut, and then it tears away a little bit at the end of the cut once it gets right to the tip. So that is something you could maybe check, is whether the blade is protruding too much through the carriage. And the next issue is that maybe if you're getting this a lot, maybe you could fix this by gouging a little bit thinner. That's to say, let's say you're using very thickly gouged cane. That very tip area is an area which is at the softest or bottom layer of the gouge, and the thicker the gouge, the softer the lowest level of the cane is going to be. The tip area is going to end up. And so what could be the case is that even though the blade is protruding the correct amount, but by the end of the cut, the cane is too soft. It is not resilient enough to hold together as that knife makes that final travel at the end. And so it's actually tearing the material away at the very end because the material is too soft. And I think in this particular case, the blade depth might not be so great. A way of cleaning this up is, of course, just cutting the tip a little bit with a guillotine, with a cane guillotine. Finally, the last thing I would like to cover in this is, and I see this a lot, this guy right here that I'm holding with my thumb. This thing has to be on the reed when we're tip profiling. A lot of people take this off and they cut out the heart of the reed, or they create a line in the profile where there shouldn't be one. And of course, some tip profiler templates are set up, and no matter what you do, they're making a sort of indentation down the center of the reed. My experience with the Reeds and Stuff profilers is that they do not do this unless you leave this thing off. And so what I would like to focus on is this middle area. Just watch it as I put this on. And you're going to see it flattens out just a little bit so that when we profile, just going to, there's almost nothing coming off. So we don't get that line there. But if I were to take this off now and run the profiler again, it would cut a hole right down in the spine, in the heart area, which would be irreparable, or irreparable, rather. I know some people don't like the idea, or don't like the... You can see there's this tiny little indent that this left. This goes away almost immediately, so you have nothing to worry about. In any case, it has no effect on the reed. If the reed is young, if the cane is new, then the cane will bounce back immediately, and there will be no long-term effect. And even I've profiled reeds which were dead, tip profiled reeds which were already, weeks dead, and that indentation didn't do anything. It did no damage in that sense. So this is something I highly advise you to use. Use the machine the way it is intended, the way it is built to be used, and don't leave things off that should be on the reed to stabilize it when it's being profiled. So, well, there we are. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you haven't already, do consider becoming a patron via Patreon and by hitting the subscribe button if you haven't done that already. Thanks very much for watching, and I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.